Good morning to everybody. We are going to take just a couple of seconds to begin while everybody enters the meeting. Okay, good morning to all of you. My name is Mariana Borja, and I am the project officer of Women in the Mar, and we give you the warmest welcome to the 37th webinar organized by Marfan titled Women in the Mar, From Conservation to Entrepreneurship. This in the month of the International Rural Women's Day that is celebrated on every 15th of October. We are gonna first remember some basic rules and suggestions. First of all, we have interpretation. If anybody needs interpretation to English, in the Zoom controls, please click on interpretation button. There, you can choose the language that you wish to listen to, and to listen only to the interpreted language, please click on Mute Original Audio. We have some basic rules for our meeting. First, we encourage a space of learning and respect. 2, microphones and cameras must be turned off during the webinar to avoid disruptions. 3, please write your full name, your country, and your organization in the chat. 4, you may ask your questions or comments in the chat. We ask you that you stay related to the topic being discussed. The questions will be forwarded to the speaker and answered at the end of the presentation. We must remember that the opinions expressed here are sole responsibility of the speakers and do not necessarily represent the opinion of Marfan. Okay. So the International Rural Women's Day invites us to recognize the fundamental role that women play in the management of natural resources, food security, and conservation, especially in coastal and rural territories, where their work holds not only their families, but whole communities as well. From the Women for the Mar initiative supported by the Summit Foundation, we promote the leadership of women who live and work in the Mesoamerican Reef system. Our purpose is to accompany them in the formation of sustainable entrepreneurships that generate local well-being, as well as protecting the natural richness of their region. Today, we meet here to reflect about how conservation with a focus on gender not only protects ecosystem, but also opens a way for women to lead, entrepreneur, and innovate rural, to strengthen their roles in the communities and organization. And to begin, we're going to start with our experience panel with 4 leader women from the MAR that are going to share their experience in this subject. Each one is going to have 5 minutes for this reflection. I will let you know when we have 1 minute to finish our participation in this section. So to begin, we're gonna start with Sandra Yamilet Cardenas, is an environmental Honduran activist who promotes women's leadership in the fishing value chain in Omoa and Puerto Cortes. Through her work with more than 30 coastal communities, she encourages the participation in conservation of mangroves and reefs, as well as the development of sustainable fishing alternatives, strengthening livelihoods and environmental resilience in the Honduran Caribbean. So, Sandra, welcome. Thank you for being here. And Sandra, tell us, from your work with the coastal communities of Omoa and Puerto Cortes, how have you seen that the conservation with a focus on gender opened new leadership and entrepreneurship opportunities for rural women? And what specific impacts have you seen on the ecosystems and the local economy and the day-to-day life of women? Well, thank you very much for everyone. Really, it's very important to know that from our perspective, from our work perspective, first, we need to be identified to be able to know what it is that we're doing, how we are doing it, and where we want to go. um, with our experience in the work we do, something important is to be able to know that in a global level, 90% of the women have a role that is very connected to ecosystems. And if we see with a lot of clarity that with all the information that we have is to really identify and understand how to start a work process with women in the different communities. So as the Center of Marine Studies, we first started to identify from a few years back, we started with the formation and to identify the connectivity between stakeholders, because we know that it's crucial to have this networking and this connection with stakeholders, but also an equity, an equitable development on the role of women in the fishing sector, and also to know that they can manage these resources. It is important to know that when we identify the needs of a community is when we can design strategies to work for a sustainable strategy, not only sustainable but also in a formal way. And we try to make this in the best way possible so that women can take this role that they must have as women in the management of natural resources. It is very important to also understand that as stakeholders, we don't do this alone. We do this as a team. And because we know that there's many stakeholders and many people participating. And for this, we have started working with an initiative on policy for the rights of women. But more than that, is for them to be able to identify the needs of the community. And how have we done this? Through the legalization and the formalization of the work and the empowerment, is that we want them to take this role, to assume this role in the community, in the different communities, in the different regions, so that they can start making decisions. For example, they now are starting to be part of local organizations. Before, when we started, we only have a 2% participation in the region. Now we have a few years of working, we have around 40% women that are part of the decision-making processes. They're part of a fishing association. They are part of different committees, leading processes. But more than that, they are part of a network, a fishing network, and a regional scale. And this leads them to be part of a discussion table on a regional level. And this is how we empower them so that they're in a status where they can be these decision makers and they can raise their voices for the different needs of the community. And this leads us to teach and grow and transport them from just a simple group of women into a group that believes of their importance in their community. So, for example, in this moment, you see a picture with local partners where we have been creating different business plans for women. And believe me, that seeing a person with a title in their hand that never thought that they would do it has a massive impact, because they say that I can do it. This is my business and this is what we want. We want to allow these women to believe in their businesses and to do that social emotional jump and cultural jump, because all of these are big gaps that we need to jump, so that we get to have more than 40% of connectivity and networking of women in this transformation process. Because in the end, what we want is to transform women to be leaders, and so that we can have a change in behavior as women that have the capacity, and we have this gift of doing the work in a different way. Thank you. Thank you for you. This was excellent. Thank you for showing us your work that you're doing. And yeah, well, the numbers speak on by themselves. Now we're going to talk to Ana Karen Campa Madrid. She's an economist with a master's in comprehensive environmental management, is a social justice specialist at the Mexican organization Comunidad y Biodiversidad COBI, and her work focuses on sustainability, socio-environmental justice, and political ecology. At COBI, she promotes the use of international instruments, access to financing, and the creation of exchange spaces among fishing communities in Mexico and Latin America. Thank you, Anna, for accepting this invitation and for being here. So, Anna, I would like to ask you, as a specialist in social justice, how do you believe having into consideration gender focus, um, how ho- how is going to improve the access to natural resources and the health of coastal marine environments? Thank you very much, Mariana. Uh, thank you all, and hello to everyone that is here. First, I want to thank for the opportunity for being in this webinar and to express the pleasure that I feel to have this kind of conversation with these important people. So, as we know, women in coastal communities historically have had fundamental roles, but many times not very recognized or visualized. And these roles are much more than a reproductive role and a care job. And of course, they have this role, but they also have a productive role in this area. And in the fishing sector, their participation, we can see it practically in all of the different phases in the value in the chain of value. We see women in the capture, in the processing, in the commercialization, in the management of resources, and also in the conservation and these ecosystems. So even though they are present everywhere, um, we still we still don't see we see a difference in how they are retributed economically. Even some activities like conservation activities, like some examples like monitoring or ecosystem restoration, the caring of spawning and reproductive areas, which are mostly voluntary actions that don't really receive some sort of payment, but economically speaking, it's quite low or insignificant for the amount of activities that they do. And I think that this happens because of many reasons. There are many economical and social reasons that don't allow that women from these coastal communities are receiving the fair share and the fair um, recognition for the activities that they carry out. But to mention some, I would like to highlight there is, of course, limited access to financing and to funding. This limited access is happens because the different funding schemes don't really have into consideration the social, cultural, and environmental conditions of the coastal communities because even though we know that there are a lot of funding options, many have limitations that are able to recognize the value of the conservation activities and even difficulties to calculate the return of the investment of financing these activities that women carry out. So what happens that this ends up showing that it is hard to mobilize these resources to women that are holding up all these conservation efforts. By overcoming this scenario, I have seen how women and the commitment and the creativity of women is still present in the communities. We have many inspiring examples, and we have some right here in this webinar of very inspiring women where where there's groups that are doing population recovery, and they're also looking how to add value to their value chains, or management of resourcing, those that take care and rehabilitate mangroves, others that work with apiculture, others that turn invasive species into jewelry. And this way, I could mention many, many examples. And all of these cases show that conservation is not fighting against creating livelihood. We just need to know, we need to ask how we sustain these activities in time, and how do we ensure that these women have an economical autonomy. And I think there's four key aspects that are crucial for this to happen. One, to design financial mechanisms that are adapted and are focused on gender, that take into account social and cultural context. The second one is to recognize and redistribute the double load that women have and right now and through history. The third one is to strengthen the capacities, as my partner Sandra mentioned, to strengthen their skills in leadership, managing, financing. And the last thing that we're going to talk further is to build solid alliances between the stakeholders of the region. In summary, I think that joining conservation and livelihood with different focus of sustainability, gender related, and climate justice not only is possible, but is necessary. I'm almost done. But it's necessary. But to be able to do this, we need to achieve economic autonomy and to recognize the health of the ecosystem and the stability of community. So yes, thank you, Anna. We will touch on these topics a little bit further on, and talking a little bit on how we have moved into creating this network of alliances in the Mesoamerican region. Now we're gonna talk with Lucia Cosgaya. She is a leader and has a very strong perspective. She's the leader of a fishing community in Punta Allen, in the Siancan Biosphere Reserve. For over 10 years, she has led Cocina Tradicional Lucy, a local food space inspired by the slow food philosophy that promotes responsible consumption and community-based economy. She is also part of CECIMS, a community-based underwater monitoring center that conducts research on reefs and key species, generating information for conservation, a center that is completely innovative in Mexico. Also, as if it wasn't enough, Lucia also participates in the creation of a recreational diving cooperative that aims to offer non-extractive tourism and allocate part of its earnings to conservation. So, Lucy, the floor is yours. Well, I give you the floor. I know you didn't ask you. I will ask you first. Lucy, so talking a little bit more about the community, in Punta Allen, we have seen that women have achieved a protagonic role in conservation, citizen science, and entrepreneurships associated with, for example, traditional cooking and community-based tourism. How do you think the gender barriers have been transformed in leadership opportunities? And how do these efforts reflect in the economical, environmental, and social aspects? So now the floor is yours, Lucy. I see that you are around, but your microphone is off. Okay. We also must mention that a big problem of the coastal communities is, of course, a problem that we face day to day is this connectivity along the Mesoamerican region. Um, we can continue. Oh, Lucy's here. Yes, yes. Thank you. It is a pleasure to be with all of you in this wonderful day. So we know that this subject is the creation of opportunities. Very briefly, I want to talk about that since I was young, uh, I'm the daughter of a fisherman, and culturally, women were not involved in, for example, managing the nets when they were fishing for sharks in case of safety and security. And we always wanted to go into the water. And time passed, and I married a fisherman from a fishing community in Punta Allen, and I get to know the ocean. I know the reef. I love the community, but because of the roles of mother that I have to carry out, I had to wait. I wasn't waiting, just sitting down. I was working. I love saying that I'm an entrepreneur. Since I got married, I have been working, and this has opened a lot of doors. Um, and being a mother, I did have to wait, but it also gave me space to wait for this moment. Kobe arrived. Um, I I I had some years that I wasn't in the ocean, but when we decided, a group of women that decided we need to be part of the water, we need to get certified, and we achieved it with a lot of help from different actors and our own resources. We were able to get certified, um, and we created a space to know about coral reefs and their health status. We we made the group Corallen with a way of, not only did we make way in the certification as divers, but we also made space for ourselves to integrate ourselves to the CECIMS. And this group has existed from a few years back, and now we asked to collaborate with them. I love talking about this subject because we created that space. We made it happen for us. Even when we were mothers, even when we had jobs, we bought that time. We used that resting time to be able to certify ourselves and to occupy that space when nobody else believed in us. And I really want to talk to you about how from myself and from Lucy, I am I'm scared of the ocean. I'm a little bit scared. I'm very emotional, but I was able to break these barriers with the help of my colleagues and my instructors and the different organizations. And the day of today, I am a rescue diver, and I know that there's always areas of opportunity for improvement, and we have achieved so many things and I want to talk to you about how the economy hasn't stopped. And even, well, right now, the economic opportunities in our area are reduced. We have managed to continue with our business. I am a traditional cook, and I am a certified cook. By government institutions, and we continue with our business, and we continue to support sustainability by being community diverse. With CONAM, we study the reefs. I still am not certified in AGRA, but I'm very close to doing it. And we continue to power through and to support the spawning aggregation sites of groupers. And this has, of course, opened many economic opportunities because we continue working. We continue working with our base work, and we continue doing citizen science, and we've had even consultancy work where other organizations hire us, where we give workshops to universities and school, and we do workshops and training. Um, but this has generated work for us. We have many different projects coming along, and I want to talk to you about how community monitoring is a little expensive. We need to pay for DAN insurance, babysitters, meals for the day because we're all day in the water, and the necessity of this has arisen to continue doing this and to find ways to create these resources. And so now we established a diving community. Um, and we're going to be positive, and we want to continue with the work. We, of course, are going to continue with our work as mothers, as divers, or community service. It's been a wild life, but we also want to support our colleagues in the group and and cheer on that even though we have many things as women that we have to do day to day, we can still create these spaces that we like to be doing of serving the community, and we are in love with what we do. A little bit crazy, but in love with what we do. Thank you very much, Lucy. It's very inspiring. Leaves us thinking a little bit of the economy of the care and the double and triple load that women can have, and all of the responsibilities that are put upon women. And for this last part, this last presenter, we're going to talk to Alba Batres, a Xinca woman, ecofeminist, and Guatemalan community journalist, human rights defender, and an expert in climate change and civic participation. She coordinates the National Forum of Women for Peace and founded the Women Collective Association of Izabal. For the past 15 years, she has led initiatives to reduce pollution in Amatique Bay, such as producing handmade soaps used from cooking oil, promoting recycling, and creating crafts from natural materials. It is a pleasure to have you here, Alba. So, as your experience as a Xinca woman, what lessons does women leadership give us in the creation of sustainable economic alternatives? And how have you transformed structural limitations in projects with real impact for your communities and ecosystems? Good morning to everybody. It is a pleasure to be here with you and be accompanied by this wonderful group of women that are um, uh, just taking action with the problems that we have. Relation with the question that we have that are 4 to 5 minutes. I'm going to see what I can say, but I first want to say that the subject of economy of care is very wide, and it's also amplified not only to our family but also to our natural resources, to our Mother Earth, and to the Bay of Amatique. In talking a little bit of how it's not visible and it's not valued. And I want to tell you about our collective is turning 17 years this year, and since the beginning we always had the focus of self-sustainability, but of course being environmentally friendly. This implies changes in the patterns of how we raise our children, from the day-to-day activities to set aside the use of straws that we use in our drinks. People are very used to using it, and then that straw is just thrown away to contaminate and to create trash and sicken fish. And have taken it out of our day to day. We don't use single-use plastics in our day to day. We always use glass containers, for example. It's very small actions that in a way help for the economic growth and the different rearing patterns. Having our own compost, and having a proper management of compost to create benefits for the land. And we are not transforming the whole world, but we are transforming our world, and in a way contributing to the care of our bay. So in relation to the activities that allow that economic autonomy, we we have implemented training courses directed to especially to women, but without excluding men, from traditional cooking to bakery, beauty courses, sewing courses, many different skills that will allow for that economic autonomy. Always hand in hand with that self-sustaining and eco-sustainable. And in that path, we have discovered that doing biodiesel and doing soap from used cooking oil would have a double impact in our lives, but also in the care and protection of our Amatica Bay and the reef area. We understand the impact of destruction that one drop of oil can have on the ocean. And if we are able to rescue that drop of oil, bring it back, bring it to our center and transform it into soap, we feel very, very lucky. That drop of oil, of cooking oil, if it's dropped down the drain, it will go through the drain to our bay and may cause massive damage to all the zones around our bay. We have been learning to reuse and collect this cooking oil so that we can give it a second use so that it contamines less our nature. So the economical impact that we have achieved by collecting this oil and creating the soap is double, because first, we are of course taking care of our bay, but second is that 100% of the profits of the soaps is for this entrepreneur women. It doesn't have a very high cost. It's relatively cheap to produce. The soap is of good quality, and you can commercialize it very well. And so, but we have still gone even further. We produce our soap. We are artisanal soap in Castilla, and lately, I hadn't told you this, but we are also producing glycerin from our soap. And that gives it a plus because it's refining our product and because we're doing that extra step for the care of our skin in a natural way, elaborating all of these cosmetic products with some specialties that we have focused on using natural resources like coffee and sugar and other natural things. Anything that you can imagine that will make a soap smell delicious, will be nutritious, friendly with our skin, but also friendly with the environment. So that is very, very important. Are we done? Yes, we are done. There is so much more to say, but I will definitely talk about it later. Thank you very much. We do have a reduced time to be able to share all of the work that you do and the amazing impact that you do. And Alba didn't talk to us right now, but they also work with women that have been victims of different violence in their homes. So now we're going to go to that second part of our talk. And we're going to do an exchange of ideas. We're going to try to take 2 minutes per participation. And well, thank you, all four of you, for sharing your experiences, your very inspiring stories. Now we're going to move a little bit more for a dialogue. And we have seen how, coming from very different contexts in the different countries of the Mar, women have shown that taking care of the Mesoamerican Reef is not only a way to venture, but also to transform and regenerate communities. So we're going to have two questions so that we can talk about this. We're going to have a space at the end for questions. But the first question, and whoever wants to start can do it. From your experience, how are the women in your communities combining marine ecosystem conservation with the creation of sustainable economic alternatives, but also what local knowledge and practices traditionally have been key to be able to achieve this? I don't know who wants to begin. Alba, you can go ahead. It is very, very important to note that the subject about the care of our planet is goes hand in hand with the constant training from women. We need to continue learning. So the experience as a community, as a collective that we've done, is that we have been able to grab different fronts, for example, with education and the different opportunities of training and knowledge and these types of alternatives, but also in the subject of self-esteem and human rights, one can't go without the other. We really work in an integral way of this. And this is an example is our women that work with us, the people that have finished our programs, gives me the guarantee that we are going in the correct way. And we have seen that women that have gone and done their university studies have come back and work in our community and are they show that these new patterns for raising our families are productive and that they are working. And as I mentioned, working with raw materials, we can also address these conditions of violence when you give opportunities for economic autonomy. A woman that is not economically autonomous doesn't have the tools to become independent. And so we help with the training, we help with their growth. And if this comes with an environmental benefit, well, this is amazing for us. Thank you very much, Alva. Perfect with the time. Lucy. Yeah, so to be the daughter of a fisherman made me have the tools and the skills to know the good things that the ocean gives us and all the knowledge that of how we can fish a fish and how we can arrange a fish and how we can cook it has opened many doors in an economic way, but also in a way of how we learn to take care of them. But because yes, we can be extracting them, the fish, as food, but how do we do it so that we guarantee that that product is going to be there for future generations. So now we're not only looking for a marine economy, but also to guarantee that this economic model is going to continue through generation, and to know that one thing doesn't compete with the other. Um, the economy is in the food, but we also have the obligation to take care of these resources, and with different tools like monitoring and beach cleans, we can definitely do that. Thank you, Lucy. Sandra or Anna, I don't know if you want to participate. Anna, go ahead. Thank you. As I mentioned in my first intervention, thanks to the work that I developed with COBI, I've had the fortune to know many of the women that are present here and know about their businesses and their conservation activities. But I believe that one of the strongest things that has surprised me and relates with your question, Mariana, is is how they combine these traditional local knowledges, but they are not close to using external knowledges that come from academy or scientific knowledge. So I think that this capacity to integrate and to combine these knowledges is an important plus that I've seen in many of the activities in the mixed groups. So I think I would just want to strengthen the touch on the subject of strengthening capabilities and skills is very important. And I have seen how the women in these communities have the openness to get this training. They're very interested to get training in different topics that might not be very related to what they thought was directly, I mean, related to them, but they're open to new things. And I've had the opportunity to work with some some people, and for example, their economic and financial management, and they told me I never thought that I would be doing all of these budget planifications and management. And I think the important thing is to break these stigmas and break this fear of this is not made for me. I am not good enough for this. Knowledge is there for everybody that wants to take it. So I just want to really reinforce that training and capacity building and strengthening are super important. And even though we see them far away or very distant from what we know, it's very important for us to continue with our endeavors. Thank you, Anna, for your participation. Sandra, I don't know if you might want to add a little bit more. Yes, it's very enriching to see that all of us are kind of in line to a similar future, to know that the leadership of a transformation um, for in changes in behavior of the people starts with small actions. Um, Really, this space is quite small, but be able to communicate about the processes. I have a very specific anecdotes of a community that that f- that faced a relocation because of climate change, and they were two young girls that were managing a fishery. They were younger than 25 years old, and they are people that are in different savings clubs. And you think, how can they really be saving that much? And they're gathering their savings, and they had only gone above the sixth grade. And I am managing a cooperative that is moving a lot economically, and they are that example of transformation. And yes, adding to the training, adding to that, to those skill sets so that they can be the leaders. And I congratulate all of the women that are telling their stories, because we're people that are going to support um, these women, and we are the ones that are going to give them a voice and an image that can tell their stories. Is going to be a massive impact to be able to make these changes in a more impactful way, along with the connectivity of the community. So my message is that we need to think about the future in transforming and continue doing work with impact, always keeping in mind that we need to protect our ecosystems. Thank you, Sandra. And now going a little bit towards your second question. Before I do the second question, um, it's important to think about these alliances and this networking that are important throughout the whole Mesoamerican Reef, that is made up of four countries with four different realities, but four realities that the situation of women has very similar problems, like excessive workloads, um, the obstacles, the structural obstacles of access for decision-making spaces, or access to resources, the gender roles that are established in these communities, um, and these fishing groups. So yes, as you have mentioned, all of them, all of you, alliances and networking. Um, uh, Even if we are working with small funding and small actions, see how we can maximize the impact, to see, as Sandra is saying, to facilitate these processes, um, so that we can support these agents of change, and of the women that are really the agents of change, so that we can face this new mindset of caring and attending the training and doing more. So, looking a little bit towards the future, I wanted to ask you, what lessons, networks, or collaborations do you consider essential to strengthen and even more to scale up these women-led models in the four Mesoamerican Reef countries towards a more just and regenerative blue economy with gender equality? I don't know who wants to reflect on this. Uh, Alba, please. Mariana, I have a green heart and I also have a blue. I dream with a network and a species of cooperative of women, of entrepreneur women's in green or blue, that we rescue everything that can be rescued to be reused. Everything can be reused, everything can be repaired, and so that we can make this a better world for all of us. I dream with a network of soap makers and textile producers with natural resources for elaborating hats and everything that we work on so that we can promote this for them to be uh, successful and that they can all go to university and that they can all be independent and more importantly that they are happy to see this planet and our bay to be clean, to be visited by more tourism, and so that our children and all future generations can can enjoy this amazing nature that we have. For us, it's a big challenge. Thank you very much, Mariana. Thank you, Alba. Thank you very much, Lucy. Thank you. Yeah, so it is a very important question because I think that all of these entrepreneurship projects and businesses are very local. Um, but think about a global scale, thinking about the impact of the very important impact that our actions and our businesses might have throughout the whole Mesoamerican Reef is something big. However, we first need to believe, we need to stabilize, we need to get training. And I think something very important is to also train younger people. I believe that in these projects it's fundamental that we have young people, young women, young men as well. They have also been key for us in our projects. And and so that we can really think that all of these actions that we are achieving, um, and that my mind started wondering, is that it can be something very big. It can change our lives. I actually had never thought about that, and it surprises me to think that we can have an impact, and we are doing it because facing climate change, any carbon footprint that we can reduce or any piece of plastic that we can reuse, it's something that we're doing. But at global scale, it's something that we can have in our minds. And thank you to these amazing women to have put this thought in my head. No, on the contrary, Lucy, thanks for expanding our horizons. Anna, Sandra, I don't know if you want to reflect a little bit more towards this closure. Yes, thank you. Um, I'm gonna I'm gonna start dreaming of how I dream it. I visualize a network of collaboration where all of the institutions and the communities that are part of them are working hand in hand for real hand in hand. When we have a view of community building where each of the actors has their own voice, but we have that co-responsibility. I also think about this last subject with some examples that I've seen in the territory, talking specifically about a key stakeholder. Um, of course, the financing organizations, the funding organization. The matter is not only to give out resources without really seeing the real situation of communities. The idea is to just give resources and leave it in the hands of God, because I've seen how projects do not last throughout the time, because they face difficulties to implement these resources or to show how this resource is being used. So I go back to this idea that we need strengthening, capacity building, and guidance And for example, on my part is facilitating these spaces of training and strengthening these spaces where I have been able to do that recently, where I had an amazing experience. So I highlight again this realm where we are working hand in hand, where we're contemplating all the voices, we're being co-responsible, where we're working together, where we recognize that we already have actions being done in the regions. There's already care of the environment being done. There's already livelihood in the coastal communities. What can we do as financial institutions, as government, as communities? As Lucy mentioned, this vision is global. We're all interconnected. It's we can't take it back. We all have to work together. Thank you so much, Anna. And to close, Sandra. Uh, it's very important to talk about uh, the word resilience or stakeholder resilience, because from the moment that, for example, how Anna was saying, from our little corner, it's important to recognize that we are not alone. We are all working surrounded by different actors in different regions, each with different perspectives. Some do science, some communicate the science to do changes. But we need to link these networks, these knowledge networks, to be able to achieve and construct this support network throughout the whole Mesoamerican Reef system. And more importantly is to know what our focal point is. We need to know where we are, what we are doing, and where we are going, and where we see our future. We see it in a way of conservation, but we also need to understand that our communities and our areas of intervention are suffering in different aspects with waste, with problems in connectivity and species management. And we need to do work so that we can continue transforming. But more than transforming is to know and to have everybody to have this feeling. Because if I do science and I only do science, we also need to know what our social impact and what environmental impact we have. We need to know that people need to do a regenerative change at a human level. And this makes me think in the future to have a gender fund, a global gender fund, and have a impact capital, so that from the beginning we build capacity. We do all of this process for 4 to 5 years. They are already ready to transform and to be this multiplying factor for future generations. For example, with young youths, we haven't finished our work, but I really think that it is a responsibility and a commitment that we need to do, is to transform, to facilitate, and to add and that grain of sand of impact. Hello. Mariana has just let me know that she lost power in her region. That's why she's frozen. Um, but we have one question from the audience from Maria Teresa Romero for Sandra. The question is, how can they be part of these networks in Puerto Cortes for the protection of the marine ecosystems? So we are connected to the municipality of Puerto Cortes. They have a part that we are working with. And this is the way that we approach them. There is different fishing associations that are interconnected, also with an intersectorial committee. You can communicate with this area. Thank you very much. If there are any other questions in the audience, we still have some minutes before before we close the session. Thank you, Liz. Uh, I lost power talking about our problems, our infrastructure problems, but thank you. I don't know if this question was answered. Thank you, Sandra. And I just wanted to land a little bit these topics, talking about the need of a network, of a women-led network focused in entrepreneurship and conservation is exactly what we want to work with Marfan, with the Women of the Mar initiative, to be able to articulate and join together these institution, people, women in the territory to be able to find the ways, as Anna mentioned, in which we can facilitate this support in a more real way. As Sandra talks, for example, in a process that might take 4 to 5 years, sometimes projects want results in 6 months or 1 year. That is not sustainable, and that is not going to last through time because we need to understand the reality of our communities and of our women. So this is what we want to work on from Marfa, from Women of the Mar. And lastly, a little commercial cut. One of the first actions of articulating these spaces of experience exchange and sharing is in December. Um, in December in Guatemala, we're going to have a few of the colleagues here in the first experience exchange with the leaders of the four leaders of the four countries of the Mar. We're going to have 13 to 14 businesses from these four countries, and we're going to be sharing it around the networks of Marfund. And well, I don't think we have any more questions. I just need to thank our speakers, thank our speakers, but also the people that are here with us today, to remember that the importance of the women and the focus, the gender focus, seeing gender financing, reporting on indicators, leading to that transformation of the day-to-day and the realities of different communities, so that we can have a social and environmental impact, positive impacts in our communities. And I just want to say goodbye. Uh, have excellent celebrations of Day of the Dead. And thank you, everyone, to all of you for being here.